There is a reason you call somebody the Michael Jordan of. Michael Jordan of neurosurgery, or the Michael Jordan of rabbis, or the Michael Jordan of outrigger canoeing. And they know what you're talking about. Because Michael Jordan is the Michael Jordan of greatness. He is the definition of somebody so good at what they do that everybody recognizes it.
President Obama's tribute to Michael Jordan in 2016, he was awarding him the Presidential Medal of Freedom right there. That was the last time we all saw Obama speaking on one of the most iconic stars in history until now. That is because of The Last Dance, a 10-part docuseries, 22 years in the making. And like many other things that are adapting to this pandemic, it was released 2 months early for hungry sports fans during this sportsless pandemic era. So right now, we turn to a special report on the lessons from this series, which is relevant to Americans whether you've seen it or not. Because one thing that actually makes this particular documentary juggernaut so special is it goes way beyond sports. It's about the human experience, what it takes, as Obama was discussing, to be great. And there are lessons that apply to life right now and politics right now. Former Presidents Obama and Clinton took the rare step of sitting for in-depth interviews for the project, reflecting on Jordan and his historic run with the Chicago Bulls.
When Michael first came to town, I didn't have the money to buy tickets for a Bulls game, even the discount ones back in the day. I was pretty broke. But suddenly you have a sports figure that puts Chicago on the map and that everybody was able to rally around.
I was a fanatic basketball fan, and I went down and watched Pippen play. I knew he was going to be really good. First time I met him, he could hardly string 3 words together. He was so shy.
People are obsessed with this series. It's had an immediate cultural impact, a phenomenon. 6 million viewers watching most Sundays of the past 5 weeks, plus more afterwards, shattering records. It's now, we can say, because it just completed itself, the most watched ESPN documentary ever. That tells you people liked watching it. Also, it was so compelling, people felt the need to talk about it immediately, which they may have done at home with friends in quarantine, but they also did it online. The series has been one of the most discussed topics recently. So when everyone comes together on one thing, it is worth asking why. And if you don't happen to watch ESPN, you could barely avoid all the people on other channels discussing it, including our own.
It was another big night for the hit ESPN docuseries, The Last Dance.
I think it was one of the most just moving documentaries I think I've ever seen.
I think I speak for millions of Americans. The first 4 episodes have been must-see TV.
I was up late watching that docuseries, even though I've seen it.
Like all America was.
I've been watching this extraordinary series on Netflix called Last Dance, Michael Jordan.
Have you been watching The Last Dance on ESPN? I know you're a Bulls fan.
Of course I have. Of
course, Bill Murray watches The Last Dance. He might be in his bathtub, but he's not missing this. So right now, we dig into 3 lessons from the story, beginning with how Jordan confronted adversity, which so many people feel right now. And that brings us to Dolores Jordan, whom he credits for focusing him on how to turn negatives into positives, from sports disappointments to more consequential negatives, like even the murder of Jordan's father.
You know, my mother was so strong. And the first thing she says, you got to be thankful, And I started looking at the positive. One of the things that he always taught me is that you have to take a negative and turn it into positive. So I started looking to the other side of it. And that helped me get through it.
Jordan recounting how that grit and wisdom from a woman who'd clearly also, of course, lost her husband helped him get through that crushing time. Anyone can relate to that, because when you lose a parent, let alone to a murder, you're going through a tragic pain that's not blunted by anything, including success. Today, America is grieving a death toll that measures up to basically 30 9/11s, and we know we're not through it. Jordan approached mourning by grappling with tragedy and then moving forward, finding renewed motivation. Maybe that appealed to a lot of people watching those memories right now because Jordan applied it across his work. In fact, he would invoke the taste of just about any setback and turn it into fuel, which is something he recounted in a moment that's not actually in this documentary. But as an athlete entering the Hall of Fame, he discussed how his high school coach was wrong to cut him from the varsity team.
When he made the team and I didn't, I wanted to prove not just to Leroy Smith, not just to myself, but to the coach who actually picked Leroy over me. I wanted to make sure you understood you made a mistake, dude.
You made a mistake, dude. This was Jordan's thing. Finding or imagining negative slights, flipping them into positive motivation. Think of it as a competitive alchemy. Bitter scraps of metal turned into gold, and sometimes it verged on the comical.
Michael could make things up to motivate himself.
I was a little bit upset that I didn't get the MVP that year, nigga.
These little slights were deep indignations to him. I mean, that's like throwing meat to a tiger.
If you're gonna high five, talk trash, now I had a bone to pick with you.
He took such umbrage at a guy saying, "Nice game, Mike," that he torched and humiliated him in front of 20,000 people. A couple of writers went up to Michael and said, "Did this ever happen?" And Michael was, with a smile, just like, "No, I made it up."
I remember him walking off the court. He was like, "Don't ever talk trash to Black Jesus."
I mean, you got a competitor here, think about it, who he runs out of detractors and then found he needed to invent them for motivation. That's deep. This is more universal than just sports. You know, another Chicago favorite once described an actually very similar view of how critics can be energizing, rapping that before he made it big, I was trying to shine, but everybody told me I couldn't rhyme. Now I could let these dream killers kill my self-esteem or use the steam to power my dreams. I use it as my gas, so they say that I'm gas, but without it, I'd be last. So I ought to laugh. Poetry from Kanye West, channeling that same type of competitive alchemy. Without the gas, you'd be last. Jordan, far from last. He used that kind of fuel to get all the way to the 6th championship and hit the game-winning shot and a final celebration for a second three-peat. You have many saying, you know, Jordan had that approach to more than just the game. Maybe we need that Jordan approach now because everyone's trying to transcend all kinds of setbacks. Now, the next theme is Jordan's leadership. He did everything himself that he asked of his teammates.
Once you join the team, you live at a certain standard that I played the game, and I wasn't going to take anything less. When people see this, they're going to say, well, he wasn't really a nice guy. He may have been a tyrant. Oh, well, that's you, because you never wanted anything. I wanted to win, but I wanted them to win and be a part of that as well. You ask all my teammates, the one thing about Michael Jordan was he never asked me to do something that he didn't do.
Let's reflect on that. Leaders who do what they ask others stand out leading in any field. From competition, everybody follows sports, these are famous people, to all the way to war. You know, General Dwight Eisenhower was earning the trust of his soldiers, historians say, because he bravely faced the same risks they did and brought the same approach into the White House. It was all about trust. That's a principle deeper than politics, from, yes, Republicans like Eisenhower to other public figures who can inspire across the ideological spectrum, which is how these themes obviously can apply today when people witness a president who refuses to lead, refuses to wear the mask for the few moments he's out of the White House, while his own administration literally tells Americans to wear masks in that same situation. That's not an ideological debate. That's an issue of leadership. Jordan said he led by practicing everything he asked of others, leading by example, inspiring fans across the globe to reach for their dreams that way. Later on in his career, we also see how he took on that same leadership role, not just with sharing wins with his own team, but with someone who was in a different franchise as a mentor to a young up-and-comer named Kobe Bryant.
It's like my big brother. You know, I truly hate having discussions about who would win one-on-one. And,
you're a fan saying, hey, Kobe, you beat Michael one-on-one. I feel like, yo, what you get from me is from him. I don't get 5 championships here without him, because he guided me so much and gave me so much great advice.
Leadership as guidance and sharing, because truly inspiring leadership, well, it goes beyond the game, right? It goes beyond athletes and fans. It even went, of course, as we saw in this series, beyond America. As hard as Jordan pushed teammates, he proved how strength also includes compassion. This is a big part of the story that was sometimes overlooked, but he chose to make time for kids who were sick. He chose to engage the rest of the world with an uplifting and motivational presence. To this day, he's one of the most famous, iconic people ever to live. It's crazy when you think about that, right? But it's precisely because he represented so much more than simply American athleticism or a type of success. He inspired the hunger for triumph and connection across cultures. Michael Jordan is more than just the guy who won. He just got people feeling that, right, we have to remember how much we have in common, our common yearnings. He oozed this warmth and charisma, qualities that obviously also transcend borders, that made him global. And as the series also touches on when we think about politics, which we discuss a lot around here, Michael Jordan intentionally chose to live at that altitude so that no single political party could claim him. Not even really a single country could claim him, if you ask a lot of the fans around the world. And Jordan's fans don't just buy some products. They wanted to invest in that larger dream. In fact, that continues. Last year, they did that to the tune of $3 billion. And over decades, the number of Jordan fans owning Jumpman gear estimated to top 1 billion people. So The Last Dance is surging now over 20 years after that last championship, showing how so much of this endures, from everyday people to Jordan also inspiring some of the biggest stars in later generations who may not have grown up on him. That includes the world's biggest pop star, Drake, who released a sneaker with MJ, who performs in his jersey, who wears rare Jordan sneakers at NBA games, which sneakerheads know all about. And Drake, even despite loving his hometown Toronto rappers, has a whole hit song, Exalting Jordan, where he intones, Jumpman, Jumpman, Jumpman. What was you expecting? Woo. Chi-Town, Chi-Town, Michael Jordan. Just had text me. Woo. The artist Future joins in that duet salute on the same chorus saying, Jumpman, Jumpman, Jumpman. Jumpman, Jumpman, Jumpman. They up to something. Them boys just not bluffing. Fact check, true. They were not bluffing 6 championships later. Now take it all together. You can feel how Jordan's lessons actually continue to apply. They applied then. They apply now. They look to apply tomorrow, because life's not about avoiding any adversity or trying to prevent ever feeling pain, let alone death. It's about what you do when it's time to face them. And so everyone's been flocking to this thing and discussing it and feeling it, because we're also thinking about how success is not just about being better at something than other people. At the highest level, that a level that Obama was talking about, it requires leading with the spirit of equality. Competition requires work and drive and intensity. The Last Dance showcasing Jordan's preternatural ability to also focus, despite the adversity we covered, the mounting distractions of modern life, to say nothing of the distractions in the life of Michael Jordan. He centered himself and those around him because he believed in himself. And then for all that intensity, Jordan still lived this life and career of an optimist, an example of a fundamental spirit that maybe people are responding to this because we can use that all so much right now. I don't have to tell you at the end of another long week and more weeks to come in this that life has many negatives. Jordan reminding us all that if we try together to face them honestly, then we're living in the reality. And then we can still choose in our own ways to aspire to be positive.
I hope that it's given the millions of people that I've touched the optimism and the desire to achieve their goals through hard work, perseverance, and positive attitude. Because limits, like fears, are often just an illusion.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.